Welcome to My Real Estate Champion with your host, Frank Rustin, where home seeker dreams come to life. You will be empowered with knowledge on how to build wealth in the real estate market, estate planning, and programs for first-time home buyers. It's time to move on up with the real estate champion, Frank Rustin.
This is Frank Rustin, your real estate champion, where home seeker dreams come to life. As always, I want to make sure I will inform you and keep you on the right path of home ownership. But as promised, I have a young man with me. His name is Kelvin Oliver with Core Mortgage.
I appreciate you having me, Frank. So my name is Kelvin Oliver. I'm a native of Chesterfield County. I grew up in the county, got in the mortgage business back in 1995. And so I've been in the business now for about 27 years. Had an opportunity to start my own company, Core Mortgage, in January of 2020, right before the pandemic. But it has absolutely been a blessing. And I tell anyone, it's been the greatest thing that I've ever done professionally. So that's a little bit about myself.
And those are good things to know about you. In fact, some of the things I didn't realize, especially with the challenges we had as far as COVID, you survived all of that. So thank you for sharing that. So Kelvin, tell me about what it takes to be a first-time home buyer.
So the definition of a first-time home buyer is someone who has not had an ownership interest within the last 3 years. So that really means that you could have owned a home, say, 5 years ago. After 3 years of non-ownership, you actually attain your first-time home buyer status back, or obviously if you've never owned a home previously, then you would be considered a first-time home buyer.
Okay, so as a first-time home buyer, I know there's always some special benefits. A lot of my first-time home buyers call me. So I'm a first-time home buyer. There's summer programs out there. But what I tell them about, well, there are several programs, but let's look at what it takes to get pre-qualified. But how important are credit scores?
Credit scores are very important. So a lot of times credit scores are going to determine not only what type of loan product you'll qualify for, but also they'll have some bearing on your interest rate. For instance, with us, for anyone who's doing a conventional loan, we need at least a 620 credit score. For FHA, we have more flexible guidelines, so we're able to go lower. But even with an FHA loan, your actual interest rate will be predicated on your credit score. So, of course, the higher the interest rate, the higher the credit score, the lower the interest rate.
So is there much difference in credit guidelines versus conventional versus FHA versus VA?
Yes, there are. So we'll start with VA. So a VA loan is going to be something that's available for veterans of the military, right? I think it's a wonderful loan program, but obviously you have to be a veteran of the military, or in some cases, the spouse of a veteran. For conventional loans, the higher the credit score, a lot of times you will find that conventional loans will give you an overall lower monthly payment, because the private mortgage insurance that you pay, that too is predicated on your credit score. So the higher your credit score, the lower that amount is, which means that you'll get a lower monthly payment. Now, if we have someone who may have had some credit challenges in the past, we're typically going to look at going FHA because we can go lower with our credit score. And then there's some flexibility as far as prior derogatory credit events. So for instance, for an FHA loan, if you have a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, then we would be eligible to provide you with financing 2 years from the date of your discharge date. Whereas if you look at a conventional loan, it's actually 4 years. So there are some differences, and more than likely, where we need some flexibility with credit scores, we're looking to go FHA.
Well, since you mentioned bankruptcy,
yes.
How much difference is a Chapter 7 versus a Chapter 13?
Okay, so I'll really go to FHA because they're the most lenient when it comes to bankruptcy. Again, when you have a Chapter 7, we need 2 years elapsed from the date of discharge. Now, with a Chapter 13, believe it or not, you can actually obtain FHA financing while still in a Chapter 13. Now,
oh my God, you hear that?
Yep.
So that's possible.
It's absolutely possible, and we've done several. And so there are a couple additional things that you have to meet. So of course, we're going to look at your credit income like we would for anyone else. But the two things that we need, you have to have been in the Chapter 13 for at least 12 months because we need to show 12 months of payments on time. And then once you get under contract, we'll have to submit, or your bankruptcy attorney will submit to the trustee for approval. I will tell you, I have never had anyone who was not approved by the trustee, but it does take some time. So usually there's some communication that needs to happen between buyer, mortgage person, and realtor, just to make sure that we're allowing for enough time to get that transaction completed, but very possible.
Now, one of the things that happens when my clients call me up, they talk to me about some of these websites that has Credit Karma is a good example. And I understand that Credit Karma credit scores is different from a lender credit score. So why is that? What's the difference?
So what happens with Credit Karma? So when you go through Credit Karma, they're actually giving you what we call a consumer score. When we pull from a mortgage company standpoint, we're using a different scoring system. So there's a different algorithm that's used. And we see it actually all over the place. In some cases, we actually see that our score comes in a little bit higher than Credit Karma. Oftentimes, it's within range, but then periodically we'll see big differences in the credit score. So what I would advise is use Credit Karma as a guide. One of the good things that Credit Karma and other services like it do provide is it will give you real-time updates when something has been maybe removed from your credit report, when it's come on your credit report, when there's an inquiry. But the scores you have to take with a grain of salt, and I definitely recommend contacting a mortgage professional to get your actual mortgage scores.
Yeah, that is great information about Credit Karma. I know one of the things that will help the individual build that credit back up is going to a lending institution and having an instant credit card, a secure credit card, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Absolutely. So revolving credit, i.e. a credit card, is both the quickest way to improve and to mess up your credit.
Yeah.
So a lot of times if we have someone who does not have any revolving credit, we will suggest that they open a card, and oftentimes that may be a secured card. And basically what that is, for instance, you will give that lending institution, say $300, and they will give you a limit equivalent to that. So a $300 credit limit. Really doesn't matter how high your limit is. What you want to do is obviously make that payment on time, and you want to keep your usage at 30% or below. So if, let's say, for instance, you had a card with $1,000 limit, you want to be at 30% or keep your balance at $300 or below. That will help to maximize your credit score. And what I normally will advise clients to do is once a month, go out, put some gas or some light groceries on there, something you know that you can comfortably pay down at the end of the month, and just keep that going. And you would be amazed at what impact that'll have on your credit score.
That's good information. And to my understanding, a person should be able to look at the credit score and call the credit bureaus to inquire about their credit to correct their own credit score. You can do it that way. Or what you think about the credit counseling programs out here?
I really think it depends on the individual. So if you're the type where you're able to, proverbially take the bull by the horn, then certainly it's something that you can do yourself. Now, if you're someone that needs maybe a little more hand-holding, then a credit counselor or a home ownership counselor may be someone that would be helpful. And so typically I'll get a feel and talk to clients in terms of what their expectations are, and then we'll just advise them accordingly.
Okay. Now, when someone inquires on your credit or they pull your credit, will that make your credit score go down, or what type of impact does that have?
Well, it can have a minimal impact as far as reducing your credit score, but there are a couple things. Number one, if you are having your credit pulled by a number of different entities for the purposes of qualifying for a home, within roughly a 15-day window, it will only count as one inquiry. But then I can take it a step further. For instance, with our company, we only do an initial soft credit pull. That soft credit pull doesn't hit your credit at all, and it doesn't affect your score in any way. And it still allows us to pull the mortgage score and to at least provide you with some preliminary numbers, and then you can decide on if you want to proceed.
So right now, we want to look at what would it take for individual, if somebody called me and I would send the individual to you, there's certain procedures, stuff they need to follow in order to get pre-qualified?
Absolutely. So for us, we have a very simple process where we have a link. That link allows you to go through a secure portal online, enter your information. What happens is when you begin, it will send a prompt to us to know that you started the application. And then once you finish, we'll get another prompt, and that's our cue to go in and start working on the file. Through that, we'll also provide a checklist in terms of the information that we'll need, such as pay stubs, W-2s, etc. And so what we're looking to do initially is to get you pre-qualified. Once you provide the information from the checklist, then we can move you from pre-qualification status to pre-approval status.
Oh, so that's the difference. We start looking at, once I get the information, then you move to pre-approval status.
Right. So pre-approval status means that I verified what you've given us, and then once we get you pre-approved, I can then provide your realtor with the letter that you'll need to then go shopping for a house.
And that's the key right there, to go shopping for your home. Because it's so important for me to make sure when you go shopping for the home, it be the right house, you know how much home it is and how to qualify for it. We got all that information done. And then at this point, I will take you out, once I got that pre-approval letter, to take a look at the homes of your dream. So I'd like to thank Kevin Arnold for being here this morning to talk about what it takes to have home ownership. But most importantly, is to inform you that you can achieve anything you want to achieve by going to the right source and getting trust in God. Thank you, Kevin.
All right, thank you.
This is Frank Rustin, real estate champion, where home seekers' dreams come to life. I am so excited because right now I have beside me a young lady that's going to talk about something so special in our life. And what she's going to talk about that will build a legacy for your family, because a lot of times you don't understand the importance of estate planning. But before we get started, Ms. Tucker, tell me a few things about yourself, your background as far as real estate.
Right. So, first, I appreciate you calling me young lady. I've been practicing for well over 30 years. I love my practice. I feel like I just help people every day, and there can't be a better thing to be able to do with your life than that. I help people with planning for time when they can't handle their own affairs. That's so important. We can talk about that in more detail. That might be by power of attorney, healthcare directives. I start off just explaining to people, what are these different options? What are these documents that you hear people talk about? And it's connected so much, our legacy and our planning, with our real estate. I do closings for people, their first homes or their sixth homes. Maybe it's someone who has a lot of rental homes. But our property, our real estate, is one of our biggest legacies for most of us. So that's when estate planning really becomes more important. The two real triggers for me when estate planning is most important: one is once you bought real estate. Two is if you have young children. So important it's such a responsible parental thing to do your planning when you have young children, so that you know they're taken care of if something unforeseen happens to us.
So you're in a partnership, correct?
Yes. So I'm a partner at Dancus, Gordon & Tucker, and I've worked with my partners there for about 30 years. Started off part-time working with them when my children were very young, and then once they went through school, and of course now they're in their adulthood. And so now I work much harder now, longer hours now than I did way back when, kind of the opposite of what many attorneys do. Mm-hmm. But I love my work.
One thing we like to say, there's a lot of attorneys that I have made contact with and that I've used in the past. But I had a closing with Lynn, and I was just so impressed her level of making a person comfortable, because buying real estate is one of the biggest decisions a person makes in our life. And it can be nerve-wracking, but she has a very good team. Once you get the contract, once we go through the process, from initial paperwork to the closing up with the keys in her hands, she's right there making sure things are done right and make a person feel comfortable with that decision they made. Well, let's talk about something you mentioned. We talked about, estate planning. So what is estate planning? Why is that important?
Estate planning, that term that you hear, it just means planning for the time when we, are not here anymore. We don't like thinking about the time when we are mortal. And so when we've made a plan, what's to happen to our assets, it's a wonderful gift we leave to the people that we leave behind. If we've done that planning, it gives them some peace of mind. They know what we wanted because we've stated it in our plan, whether our plan is a will, our last will and testament, or maybe it's in a trust. If we're trying to control from the grave a little bit more, we might have that kind of a plan. But more important than just at the time we pass away, estate planning means if we come to a point in our lives where we are not able to handle our own affairs, and we've all experienced this with an elderly parent, if we have designated someone we trust by what's called a financial power of attorney to handle our financial affairs,
and we have designated someone that we trust to make our healthcare decisions in what we call a healthcare power of attorney, then the courts don't get involved in our lives. If we haven't done that kind of a plan and we can't make our own decisions, then one of our family members is in this terrible position of having to hire a lawyer, maybe like me, to petition the court to appoint someone as guardian and conservator to be in charge of our affairs.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to try to keep the courts out of our business, and we do that just by planning.
Yes.
So that's the most important thing that I explain to people when we're talking about estate planning. Is one of our goals is to control how our affairs are going to be managed when we cannot, which includes both while we're living and after our passing.
And that's really important because I have experienced that myself. My mother passed last year, back January 20th of last year. And she was not set up at all with estate planning, insurance, or nothing. And I appreciate you stepping in and educating me the process, because she helped, through the process of getting me, getting this transaction closed for me. But it was a headache, but again, you want to have somebody who's well knowledgeable and understanding that's going to take you through the journey. It is a journey, and sometimes it's a terrible journey. But as long as you got somebody that's to lead you and guide you, then that's what's important. This is Frank Rustin, your real estate champion, where home seekers' dreams come to life. I'm so excited to give you the keys that will unlock doors to become a determined first-time home buyer and first-time home seller. Special tips to become a successful first-time real estate investor. Join me today. I have the keys you need and move on up with Frank Rustin, your real estate champion. Throw your keys up. We just bought down your home. Shake the keys. People say it's powerful. You believe. Let's talk about probate and why you're trying to avoid it.
Okay. So probate, people hear that term and it creates a lot of fear in people because they'll hear people say it followed by you want to avoid that at all costs. Yeah. But probate isn't always, it's not always difficult. It's not always complicated. It depends on your family and financial situation. But probate itself is just a process of, at my death, if I have a bank account and it's just in my name, if I have a home and it's just in my name, if I have stock in Verizon just in my name, my husband or my child, whoever my survivor is, they can't just get to those assets just because they can't just go with my death certificate and say, she's deceased, I'm her only child, and he's turned the asset over to me. Yeah. They can't do that because the third party who's got that asset needs to protect themselves, make sure they're dealing with the right person. So they will only deal with the, quote, executor of the estate or the administrator of the estate. That's the person who has met with the clerk of the court. In my case, I live in Hanover County, so at my passing, someone has to make an appointment with the probate clerk in Hanover County, and they qualify, they get sworn in as the person in charge of my estate. That's opening the probate process. So the probate process is just getting an official person in charge who can now gather the assets and distribute them according to my plan. So if I've done a will, that's my plan. If I haven't done a will, then it goes by Virginia law, says essentially Virginia law sets up what our will is if we don't do one. And the court has oversight of that process. So if I'm the executor or the administrator of someone's estate, I have to report to the court everything that I do. That's frankly, what I call the pain in the neck part of it. That's the part that people find difficult because you have to keep track of every bit of paper. You have to file an accounting with the court of what you've done. So there are ways to make it much easier on the people you leave behind to avoid that probate process. Naming someone as beneficiary on an asset can do that, avoids probate.
Mm-hmm.
Adding someone to your account avoids probate.
Right.
Putting your assets into a private trust avoids probate. So, but that's my job, is to meet with people and find out what they have, what their goals are, and then we talk about ways to avoid probate if that's a big goal. That's not the goal of everybody.
Mm-hmm. What's the difference between a will and a trust?
So the will would be a paper that says, everything I have is to be divided as follows, and I name this person as my executor. If you do a trust, that's a paper that says, this is my revocable living trust. I'm putting assets into my trust during my lifetime, and at my death, my successor trustee, who I'm naming in here, will divide my assets as follows. So that's private. That trust doesn't ever go through probate. The court doesn't see it. I've got everything set up in a private trust to be divided on my death.
What we can do too is that we can set up a link on my website. And the website is called My Real Estate Champion for You, and that's 4, the number 4 for you. You go on our website, and we are partners as far as educating clients, and that way, you will be informed and making sure that you can build a legacy for your family. So first of all, I'd like to thank you again for coming out today. I would appreciate you coming out and make me feel comfortable. Just sitting there talking to you. You have that presence, the energy about you that make the person relax. So thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
All right.
This is Frank Rustin, real estate champion. Well, home seekers' dreams come to life. So tell me, George, how did we actually meet as your real estate champion?
I think my wife, Kathy, found some property on Lakeside Avenue that she was interested in. It was a foreclosure, and you were the listing agent. You showed us the property.
So I showed you the property, but after I showed you the property, you see the opportunity to look at other agents, but you decided to stick with me as your real estate champion. So why was that?
Well, for one thing, you were patient enough to show us the type of property that we wanted. We were interested in foreclosures that we could renovate a little bit and then sell at a profit at a later time, or either rent it out.
And that's the point we're talking about here. You want to make sure you put your clients first, their needs, their wants, and things that the vision is in their mind. My job is to listen to what they need. So tell me, what has been your experience with me as your real estate champion?
Well, I mean, our main experience that makes me happy about it is that you have the patience to show people what they want rather than what you want them to see. Frank is very good at setting your mind at ease about what you're doing. He knows that ultimately it's going to turn out pretty well if you're just patient.
Yeah. So what could I have done to do a better job to serve you as your real estate champion?
I think you did enough hand-holding and consoling, and you knew when to back off. Sometimes you run into situations where the buyers are dragging, or maybe you got a delay with the person that's selling you the property, and Frank could assuage your apprehensions about it. He'd just say, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's going to move forward."
Yeah.
You were right.
Anything you'd like to say to my audience that will use me as that real estate champ?
When you've got somebody who's got the patience, the know-how to get you in and out of the deal without any hold-ups, and that's what we have with Mr. Rustin.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. This is Frank Rustin, real estate champion. But home seekers' dreams come to life. In life, you go through a journey, and sometimes you never know where this journey is going to take you. A good friend of mine called me and said he wanted me to talk to his mother, put his mother's home on the market, and this was a real close friend. So when I met Gloria, I understand she was going through some challenges, but for me, my whole thing is challenges become opportunities. So right now we have Gloria, and she's going to talk about how I became a real estate champion. Gloria.
Frank, you are my real estate champion today, tomorrow, and forever. Because my son, Michael, introduced you to me. He told you about me. He knows what type of mother he has, a funny mother, that don't take no mess and do not deal with anything and anybody. So he know you was the main for me. So he sent you into my life. And I'm so thankful. Because you just took over. And you made things so smooth and easy for me. I didn't have to worry. I thought I would be worried and wondering, is it going to sell? What I got to do this or that? No, I did not. You made everything smooth. You made everything easy. And that happened because God was in the midst of it.
Yes.
That's why that happened.
Yes.
And I know that. So now I'm thankful because he laid you and me both down the right path. And I'm so thankful.
Yes, he
Frank Rustin.
Thank you. And I know times we sat in our house, and we sat there and prayed for the right buyer to come, and we was dedicated behind it. We shared some tears together, especially, during some trying times, because during the process, she lost her son, during the process of her selling her home. But I told her, I'll be right there with her. I'm not going anywhere until we get that check in your hands, but also still checking on you because I look at you as part of my family. Yeah. And I thank you so much. So what has been your experience What has been your experience and work with me as your real estate champion?
It was wonderful because you came out being concerned about me. You was concerned about the money that you want to make on the end. You was concerned about me. You helped me make it through my son's death. You helped me make it through selling the house. Which a lot of times I was doubtful. You just calmed me right there. You just said a word and calmed me right on down. And I was able to make it through. And I'm so thankful for you, Frank. I don't know what to do.
And the word I gave is the word of the spiritual understanding of connection.
Yes.
And that's what powers me. This is my real estate ministry. This is where I serve people because I understand this is one of the biggest decisions they can make in their life, a person can make in their life. And I don't take that lightly. My whole job is to get a person to trust me so I can lead them in the right direction.
Yeah.
So any words you want to share with our audience, why should they use me as a real estate champion?
But if you want someone that's for real and not about the money, about the person, go with Frank Rustin, because he's the man.
I'm the man. Thank you so much, Gloria. This is Frank Rustin, your real estate champion, where home seekers' dreams come to life. I'm so excited to give you the keys that will unlock doors to become a determined first-time home buyer and first-time home seller. Special tips to become a successful first-time real estate investor. Join me today at the keys you need and move on up with Frank Rustin, your real estate champion. Hold your keys up. Hey! They just bought their new home. Shake the keys. Let people see. It's possible if you believe.
My name is Joni Moncure, and I'm the Central Virginia Business Development Officer for Virginia Housing.
Well, I have been in this business for 37 years. My focus has been on first-time home buyers because I believe that that's where the need is.
Thank you for joining Frank Rustin, your real estate champion, where home seeker dreams come to life. You will be empowered with knowledge on how to build wealth in the real estate market, estate planning, and programs for a first-time home buyer. It's time to move on up with the real estate champion, Frank Rustin.
It's a celebration, buyers and sellers. This is Frank Rustin, the real estate champion, celebrating 35 years assisting first-time home buyers and sellers for all their real estate needs. And celebrating, I'm giving away 3 $50 gift cards. Register today by contacting the number on the screen or go to my website. Buyers and sellers, what are you waiting for? Call me today, Frank Rustin, your real estate champion, where home seekers' dreams come true. And remember, it's a celebration.